I have a really robust Q&A, but we're going to take those questions that are really content-based for the end. Of course, if there's anything technical that you need, Imal is going to be answering those in the chat. Imal, I see one question already, and I don't know if that's something that you can manage while we're here together.
Yeah.
So, hello. Oh,
No, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
okay. I'm also, if I'm looking this way, this is my first time doing Instagram Live, so I'm trying to do this thing. So, hi, everybody. I'm not going to reiterate anything that hasn't been said, but for the Instagram uh, audience, I will just say welcome. So, this is a panel sponsored by the National Network for Developing Conscious Communities, or NDCC. This panel is called Building Arts and Cultural Cooperatives, Creativity, Ownership, and Community Power. And I have the chance to speak with two wonderful, influential people in the movement. Before we start the conversation, I thought it might be nice putting myself in your shoes and everybody's shoes to kind of ground us. Historically, I'm not a scholar per se, so this is just my take on things. And of course, everything that's being said is completely my own and not necessarily the opinions of NDCC. That said, let me plug in my phone and then we'll get started. Okay, so my name is Alana Morris. It's an honor to be here. Across history, the arts have been the heartbeat of Black movement making. Our songs, our protests are our blueprint for freedom. From the Harlem Renaissance, collectives that produce self-produced theater and poetry to the women of the Freedom Quilting Bee who stitched beauty and resistance into economic survival. These are the things I'm thinking about. Even the Black arts movement, our creativity has always been cultural and cooperative. To me, these are not just artistic gestures. They were colossal acts of mutual aid, of economic self-determination, and cultural preservation. They remind me that art has never been separate from the struggle for ownership, for belonging, and for power. Though I Am Arts is not a cooperative, so much of the work we do is rooted in these same values, in mutualism, reciprocity, and care. Excuse me. So I'm here tonight, like many of you, to listen and to learn and to grow in understanding of how cooperative models can help us build new futures. And those futures are where artists, creatives, culture bearers, culture workers not only create beauty, but own the means of production in collective. And a little bit more about where my heart is when it comes to this movement. And welcome everybody who's on the IG Live. I believe that arts and culture are key to shifting society's consciousness. And if I'm looking down, it's because I want to, make sure that I touch on all the points that I thought were important for me to share with you. I believe that the arts and culture are the heartbeat of movement making. They ignite our imaginations. They touch us in ways that policy alone cannot. As Black feminist scholar Barbara Smith reminds us, a revolution isn't complete without the arts. Emma Goldman says that if I can't dance, I don't want to be a part of your revolution, or I'm paraphrasing. So, to ensure that what we create comes from us and returns back to us, I believe that Black cultural production cannot be under the thumb of capitalism. Cooperatives, I see, offer us a model of reclaiming autonomy over our cultural technologies. Why and how? In my mind, and we're going to find out more from our two esteemed panelists tonight, they resist commodification, center communities' needs, and foster economic sovereignty. I have much to learn from those who are organizing in cooperative frameworks, and as I believe it returns us to a way of life that honors the wisdom of the past. So I'm eager to explore these pathways with our webinar panelists. I'm thrilled to be joined by two extraordinary leaders in this work. Tama Israel of the chief, solutions provider at TMH Financial and Management Solutions. and Kim Poole, founder of TAI Tours. Their insight, I believe, is going to really guide us today in reimagining what collective creativity and shared power can look like for Black arts and culture workers today. So let's begin. Okay, taking a breath. So I have a number of questions. I hope we get to them all. We might not get to them all. I may have too much. This one is first maybe more of an introduction. And please feel free to Ma and Kim, if there's something that hasn't been said in terms of who you are and what you do. Feel free to add. But I would love for you guys to introduce your cooperative work and how your business reclaims cultural power and economic autonomy through cooperative labor. And whoever feels like they have an answer that's rising to the top can go first. Yeah, thank you.
I'll pop in there, Kim, unless it's more convenient for you now. So you let me know, and I'm definitely ready to lean in and out as needed. So my name is Tamai Yisrael, currently situated in Bobancha, Choctaw name for what is now known New Orleans. I'm a native of Birmingham, Alabama, and of course, I've moved here for music and arts. What my bio didn't say is that I am an arts enthusiast because my family are musicians and artists, and I too also have recently started singing in the family band and have developed cultural spaces to foster creativity and community connectivity. Um, Currently, one of the major projects that I'm here to talk about is the Neo Jazz Cultural Center, which is a space where we are organizing not just in arts programming or music programming, but we're really organizing around community connection. The space has been one of the many projects that I'm working on. I'm also a cooperative developer. And of course, my bio shared that I do financial management. But I really wanted to hone in on the artistic side of the work because I feel like without creativity, without the culture that we've generated as Black and Brown people in this country, the United States would not exist in the very nature. It would not have the economic fiber that it has today. And it's through through our production in arts, culture that has really made quality of life in this country even better. I think our products, our art-based products, and the things that we create from the food, from the dance, from music, really has been a big part of the economic infrastructure that we get to experience and also make up a large number of the conveniences that we experience. So I really feel it's important for us as people who are thinking about collaboration and in community to really think about like the connective tissue that arts programming creates for us. And as shared in Alana's beautiful introduction of this subject, every movement had arts and culture organizing as a part of it. And I think this movement that we're in today is very much rooted in arts-based organizing. So that is my introduction of who I am. And I also see that we may be having a little bit of challenge with Kim. So please let me know if we need to move into different subjects. I'm happy to keep going.
Thank you, Tama. And thank you for reiterating your contribution to arts and cultural production. I did forget to mention that Tama is a partner at Yisrael Records, it's an independent record label, and she's a producer of jazz and contemporary music, and she manages local artists. Um, okay, as Kim around, Mal, did you get any messages from her? Maybe she.
No, not right now. I think she might be having some technical issues because I saw that she was having trouble with her camera. Um, so if we want to move on and then we can reintroduce if she wants to add something at the next question.
Absolutely. In case I don't see it, please flag me because we want to make sure that her voice is in the room. Um, So then I will flip this to you, Tama. My second question is going a little deeper, and I'm gonna go around all around town, guys. We're gonna start with cooperative models and values. We're gonna talk about ancestral inspirations, partnerships, ecosystem buildings. I just tried to put together a lot of questions that I feel like folks may want to know. And of course, feel free to add questions in the chat. So, Tama, what specific cooperative principles, i.e., democratic member control, economic participation, or just concern for our community wellness, do you find most critical in the context of Black arts and culture, and why?
I love this question. And I also love like the how the seven cooperative principles give us like a good basis for how we frame the work that we're doing to build economic sovereignty. And I want to raise autonomy and independence as like my top, and I have three, but autonomy and independence as the top, because I think the freedom of being able to express ourselves in a meaningful way what really gave us the tools and the resources that we needed to be able to communicate to each other historically in challenging times. Music, arts, and creative outputs. Specifically, let's talk about music because I'm here in New Orleans, and home, the land of historic Congo Square. And we know, and if you don't know, Congo Square is a space where, after a major slave revolt in the 1800s, um, people who are our ancestors were able to actually congregate while during an era where slavery was really rigid. There were no off days, there were no days to recognize your spiritual context. And so a slave revolt arose in the early 1800s. Part of the answer or part of the so-called solution for the unrest was having a day where you can go, where our ancestors were able to go and do their spiritual practices. And so we had drum circles, we had the birth of jazz music. uh, Many cultural expressions came after this moment of unrest. And so, I know there's like a forever argument of who's the true home of jazz, but we know most of us here in New Orleans, we claim New Orleans to be the birthplace of jazz, and it's at Congo Square where a lot of these rhythms from Africa and just the influence of who we were from the motherland, as well as who we are, our indigenous family members here on this landmass, we're able to collide our cultures together and create a lot of what we are experiencing in modern music today. So it's through that freedom of expression, that autonomy and independence, I think the cooperative principles gives us a basis for us to be able to like name the things, challenges that we experience, but also find ways to come up with creative solutions without the restrictions. And unfortunately, our ancestors had to move in a very restricted time. So even more necessary for that autonomy and independence to be a part of what our work today and very much a part of the movement. A second one is concern for community. I really am connected to concern for community because without the collective of the people who I live with around my neighborhood, I think I wouldn't be able to meet my own needs. And having us really find ways for us to meet our collective needs is an important element of cooperative practice. um, Here in New Orleans, of course, and I can speak a lot about this, but the gumbo pot is one of the many tools historically that came out of like building community-based food. The gumbo pot is a representation of like people coming together, throwing in their little bit, my little bit, and us being able to put it in together and making a lot so that it's able to actually feed the whole neighborhood and the community. And I'm sure many neighborhoods and communities have had these practices so that we can actually figure out ways to meet our actual needs. And then the last piece is education, training, and information. Uh, Big piece of why things are so upside down is this intentional effort of keeping our cultural artifacts away from us. And I know many of us have heard about the most recent thing with the Smithsonian and most of these or institutions now that are now releasing these artifacts. But this information has been held from our people for so long that we now have to find ways to connect back to what it was that we created in our history so that that can inform us in our movements today. So just wanting to lift out those three principles that I think resonate in the cooperative movement, but also very aligned with the practices of creativity and cultural expression.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Tama. I really appreciate that gumbo reference, and it definitely has it strikes a chord. Turn my camera around, for me in particular. I also appreciate you lifting up the context and the history of your space. You are based in New Orleans. I am based in Minnesota. Minnesota has one of the largest networks of cooperatives in the country. And if Kim is still on around, she is Baltimore based. And that actually does lead me because talking about the past and talking about the our um, location, our geographical context. There are also other things to consider when we're looking to grow inside of the cooperative movement. And so I would love to jump into education. All right, now, as I said, if you're just joining, I'm Alana, Arts is the director of I Am Arts. I Am Arts is not legally incorporated as a cooperative. We're in the nonprofit industrial complex, and yet so much of the way in which we work follows after a mutualistic framework and value system. So, Tama, what educational resources or training do you think is most helpful for new members in joining your cooperative? I also want to lift up that Tama is the, might be, correct me, past president and board member of the New Orleans Food Co-op. So has had a lot. Just the portfolio here is so wonderful, and I also love that I had a chance to actually meet you in person. That this is not the first time we're meeting today. But yeah, how do you foster a culture of shared learning and decision making in the cooperative frameworks that you are a part of? What trainings do you find is helpful for people who are wanting to join your movement, wanting to join the Israel Records or a part of the, I didn't get the whole name, TMH, and coming on board for support.
And thank you so much for just like connecting to who I am and the work I do. It's so as you said, there's a lot of things, but I want to lift out a project and a work that's really dear to me right now, which is Cooperation New Orleans. Is a movement for cooperatives in New Orleans. And one of the things that we found, and as you mentioned, I was formerly the board president of the New Orleans Food Co-op. And coming off of that role, I found that cooperatives was one of the things that, it was really exciting to see the food co-op provide access to food and meet needs in community. But I wanted to see like what more can we accomplish with cooperatives at the center of it. And so a few of us got together, the former GM, who's now the current GM, and a few of my friends around the city. We organized a movement for cooperatives, and we call that Cooperation New Orleans, based off of Cooperation Jackson. We were so inspired by what they're doing in Jackson, Mississippi, that our neighbor, we decided to create a similar movement here in New Orleans. But one of the challenges is we found that the memory of mutual aid, the memory of collective work, the memory of cooperative practice was not as dominant as a very developed ecosystem like Minnesota or the Bay Area. So we had to do a little extra thing. And so one of the things that we created was the Black Liberation Co-op Academy. And the Black Liberation Co-op Academy was really designed because we wanted to draw the attention to the history of cooperation in the Black community. And actually, there was like this amazing book, many have probably know of it, but Collective Courage by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nimhart, which is it sparked a fire in many of us around the country, and I'm sure it's globally, that cooperative economic strategy was at the root of many historical Black movements in the United States, but yet it was the most undertold story. It was hidden, by the way, just to be, quite blunt about it. It was hidden. And so the Black Liberation Co-op Academy was really inspired off of this work to really help us think about this collective practice. We've had cooperative economics from ancient times, and many of us have said cooperation is an ancient technology. And with that said, it's not uncommon for it to be an economic strategy that we can deploy today. So we really wanted to take that energy and really have people build off of their historical memories, but also ways that they've been working in community. And New Orleans is one of those areas where, like, we've had to deal with hurricanes, we've had to deal with economic crisis time after time after time. And what never fails is the ability of the people in the community to come together and care for each other. And to me, that is like the very center of a cooperative economic thought and practice. So using those memories, we really wanted to get people inspired to see how can we co-create a future where we're co-owning our neighborhoods, we're co-owning our culture. And as a matter of fact, New Orleans is one of the most extracted from cities, our arts and our culture, other places, and people are here. And it's not that we don't want the tourism, right? But we do know that the people who are creating that culture aren't directly benefiting from all of those dollars coming into the city. So this academy was designed to really help people steward in their own futures and really how can we co-design what happens in our own economies through our collective work. So Black Liberation Co-op Academy is one of the many tools that we use. And then the other thing I want to lift out is in looking in the overall cooperative network, there was not that many like specific to Black and Brown cooperative organizers that we can draw from. But we have our ancestors like Fannie Lou Hamer, W.E.B. Du Bois that wrote a lot of the thought process around cooperative practice. So how do we pull that information into today's time, but also use that to generate energy around the movement today? And so part of what we're doing right now is having these house meetings where we're sharing our knowledge and finding ways that we can think through meeting our collective needs. So in Cooperation New Orleans, we're deploying a multitude of strategies, really just to build a memory up and also find ways for people to get together. Because once people are together, they can actually start doing the organizing that they need to do the work to change our paradigm.
Amazing. Oh, Tama, you're just so wide in what you cover. Thank you for lifting up W.E.B. Du Bois. I believe it was the Creekwa Players Little Negro Theater that he founded, and that was specifically to self-produce Black art when it was not being produced in the mainstream space. So wonderful. This I couldn't have written a better segue if you're joining us on live. Wonderful here with Tama Israel. And Tama has a portfolio that spans food, arts, culture, and economics. And we just looked up an ancestor. So I would love for us to, maybe we should have started here. Ancestral inspiration is what we're at. And I also want to pause for a moment if you're on the Zoom. I do believe the chat is now open. So if it was locked before, don't give up hope. If you have a comment, you have an emoji, just throw it out. Okay. So Tama, okay, Tina, yes. What ancestors in Black arts and culture do you take inspiration from in your cooperative work?
Ooh, okay. Arts and culture, ancestors. I'm gonna go with wow, this one is a tough one. I'm gonna go with just some of the jazz artists. And I can name a few, but we got our John Coltrane, we got Miles Davis, and during that era of music, we were looking at the civil rights era. We were looking at an era where Black and brown artists weren't allowed to perform in a lot of different places. And so, needless to say, we always, without fail, figure out a way and develop our own. So all of the ancestors who were on that chitlin circuit, right? Right here in New Orleans, we have a place in a space called the Dewdrop Inn, and many of our former jazz musicians, artists, they co-created a whole network of ways to get their music and their culture out to the people who wanted it. So much so that we were able to generate some of the very first pop stars, if you will, from this organizing. Louis Armstrong, very first pop artist in the world, right? So just drawing off of the pioneers of the jazz industry that made way for their music to be heard in spite of all of the challenges that were there. And let me tell you, we weren't allowed to be in spaces, but in spite of that, we created those spaces for us to actually come in and be present. So just really inspired by that, and just some of the amazing organizing it took. And I want to name that during that era, they were not able to travel the country safely. So it also took people who were collaborators to create safe spaces for our ancestors to really be able to put their arts, their music, their culture out into the cities and have it go around the country. So I'm gonna stop there because I see my co-panelist back, and I want to make sure she has the space to tap in. So
Well, wonderful.
Yes, yes, I am tapping in. I'm so sorry, family. Pole. This signal and the mountains are not doing us good, but I think it's strong now, and I'm so glad to be back.
Wonderful. Well, I'm gonna cite a few things, Kim, while you get grounded, and then we're gonna circle back with you a little bit and start from some of my first initial questions that you weren't here for because I really want the audience to glean from your wisdom as well. Thank you to Ma, lifting up jazz, lifting up music, knowing that she's based in good old New Orleans. I definitely, when I think of arts and cultural cooperatives, I think of the Harlem Renaissance, though it was an artistic flourishing, was also an economic one and cooperative one. I think about, we mentioned W.E. Du Bois. I mentioned the Freedom Quilting Bee. This is 1966, Alabama. This is art being sold by quilters to support their families. The Black Arts Movement. I wish Baba Lewis was here, who was a part of that as well in 1965 to 1975, founded by Amari Baraka. This, it's cultural, it's also an economic revolution, and we have so many examples. And I want to circle back a little bit to you, Kim. So thank you for joining us. Teaching Artists Institute offers unique travel experiences all over the world. Could you tell us about your cooperative work and how your business reclaims cultural power and economic sovereignty and autonomy through cooperative labor? I think.
Yeah, I think she's frozen.
Okay, yeah. All right, well, let's
Yeah.
continue. We're going to always have chance to hear from people in many different ways. And just so you know, if you're here by Zoom or if you're on the I Am Arts Live, this whole recording will be on YouTube. Um, yeah, we'll probably talk about those details at the end.
Are you able to hear me, Lana?
Yes, Kim, you are coming through.
Okay. And so I just wanted to answer your question around what we do as an organization, as a cultural cooperative. And so we're focused on art as a tool for social transformation. Um, and though I am a traditional artist, and many of the culture workers within our circle and collective are also traditional artists, what we've learned after a decade of being in operation is that we're not necessarily in the art business. So often when we think about the artist class, we think of them in the Eurocentric context. You are the hired help, you are our entertainment. But in the African worldview, the griot was so much more than the entertainment. Um, they served at the center of community, in many ways helping to define its reality, educating the young people. They were like walking, talking libraries that held the history of the communities, and in so many ways that maintained the continuity, this intergenerational dialogue that was foundational to African societies. And so, in this same spirit, in the Teaching Artists Institute, we see ourselves as artists in the same vein as the griot. That holds the history of the village, and also because we're inspiring the next generation and we maintain the bridge of intergenerational dialogue, we see ourselves as best positioned to also create the future. And so when we say that we're a cultural cooperative, we're not necessarily talking about our individual works as traditional artists, because art is everything and everybody all the time. And so sometimes we're put into that box, but for the sake of this dialogue, the foundation of our work is based on the traditional housing cooperative. We collectively own and operate. Well, here in the U.S., we only have 2 such properties, but our organization works in 9 countries around the world, and we're focused on artists in residence housing. We see that as the foundation of our cooperative. But what we've realized is that we're working locally. And so that means in each one of our locales, we're working grassroots and grass tops. And so we're trying to scale into what's considered, for the sake of this dialogue, a traditional purchasing cooperative. Because what we've realized is that this is the art trap trade. If we can begin to, within our community, buy, sell, and trade our commodities amongst ourselves, if we can produce simply what we need, then our sustainability and sovereignty is guaranteed. And so we're still on that spectrum, but we have been successful in the first way, which I think is the most important way. When I think about any budget, I think about the most expensive part of that budget being the human resource. And so when you look at your budget, you've got your materials, you've got to buy things, the things that you need. You've got logistics, that's the infrastructure of your budget. It's like transportation, it's energy, it's, housing, the spaces that you rent for your events. And so once you look at your budget and you see your materials and your logistics and your human resources, you realize that the human resources are what you spend the most capital on. And so also, if I look at our cooperative, I would say that at our base, at our pillar, we're also a skills, or what we call a worker cooperative, because we're sharing our skills as artists. We're bartering them. We're using them in what we call a skills bank. And so we can talk more about what that looks like as we move on in this conversation. But again, when they think of us as a cultural cooperative, they think, oh, you guys are the artist class. So, you're talking about traditional arts. Yes, I'm a singer. Many of the leadership in our cooperative, which is Glocal, we are traditional artists. But when you think about us in function and practice, think of the blending of a housing cooperative, a purchasing cooperative, and a workers cooperative, where we are bartering, trading, and collectively building our skills together. When we think about culture, again, it's everything. It's not just the music, the dance, or the song. It's not the pretty pictures that you paint. Culture is the pedagogy of how we operate. It's how we move. And in some ways, I think that language around cooperative development has been co-opted, and it's not really acknowledging some of the indigenous knowledge systems that have pillared African people historically. And so within our work, we try to hold up some of those traditional knowledge systems, so that we realize that this has always been how global African people have moved. We look at the Ethiopians in the Oromo land, the Gada. We look at the governing councils in Congo, the Mbongi. We think about how these systems of circular economies and cooperative development historically for African people can guide our development, but we still learn best practices from those that are functioning within the system, the capitalistic societies where we currently live. And so our work is a double work, this continual and constant balancing act. But the Teaching Artists Institute, we're still learning what that is, especially on the backdrop of so many changing elements on our socio-political landscape, what it means to operate globally across 9 different countries. So I'll stop there. I hope I didn't say too much.
Did she say too much? Let us know in the chat. No, you said just enough, just what we needed to hear. I've come across this term, actually, as a grant panelist, glocal. In this next question I have for you that we talked about a little earlier, could you define what this means, glocal? And when you're talking about, and you said it was all embedded in your presentation, Kim, but what cooperative principles, if you can dial it down to, a few that are really operating in your system that really support the work that you do and that you find that are really critical for Black arts and culture, making, production, sharing, what would they be? And also, yes, give us a little bit about what glocal means. And let me know in the chat if you also are new to this word, because I'm relatively new.
Okay, no problem. So glocal is our definition of what it means to work from a local perspective in multiple regions globally. So it's local and global meshed together. Hoping that you understand that even though we're an international organization, our organization is boots on ground in every region where we work. And a part of the balancing act that is our cooperative is figuring out how to work across these artificial currencies that were given to us, inflation. But what we've realized is that locally, when we're connected to the people, that we're facing some of the same problems, and we're facing also, as a result, some of the same opportunities for solution. And so Glocal is us working grassroots and grass tops, being in touch with the people, in our communities, in each region where we work. You have many international organizations, the United Nations, the African Union, and all of their subsidiaries. And they've got a bird's eye view on what's happening with people in the communities on the ground level. But our organization has the ability, because we are the artist class, to connect directly. And so when we say that we're working in West Africa, in Ghana, Gambia, and Liberia, and in East Africa, in Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, when we say we work in Maryland, but based in Baltimore and Park Heights, I mean, we're actually in touch with our neighbors. We know who's on Oswego. We know who's offering summer programs and who's in leadership and who's doing what's what. And so our network is our net worth. And so when we say as an organization that culture is the new currency, a lot of it is because we have this strong woven network of culture workers and healers and growers and artists, creators that are in touch and just a text message away in real time. Asked about global. I hope that answered your question. I wanted to go on to the.
Yes, you only got it cut off just right now, but that definitely answers my question. At a framework that is weaving together from all over the world, but still very much in touch with individual needs, with a local community needs is what I what I receive.
Yeah, yeah, grassroots and grass tops. Um,
Got
so
it.
international but locally connected. And so I guess the second part of your question was really speaking to our value system. If we had just two values, was that the case?
Was cooperatives one-on-one. There are a lot of principles or guidelines for this sort of work. It could be democratic control. It could be the membership being collectively working together. It could be just the mission, the concern for the community, the collective. So my question was, are there any cooperative principles? What are those ones that are really, really operative for your work when it comes to specifically Black arts and cultural production?
Sure. So I won't speak for all Black arts and cultural cooperatives, but for ours in particular, because we lean on indigenous knowledge systems and the original cooperatives out of our own cultural worldview, I think it's important that I hold up one very distinct difference that I find between us and other cooperatives that are in operation, birthed out of what I would say is the co-opted cooperative model, is that this illusion of democracy or democratic control, like for us in African worldview, we're based out of communalism. And in the African worldview, communalism means everybody gets a say, but not everybody decides. And though everybody benefits from our work, and I think that that is like a major consideration. We're very hierarchical. And so there in every African society that we've learned from, that we use to inform our work, there's always a council of elders. And the council of elders, in many ways, they are the final say-so or the decider, so to speak. And that doesn't mean that we don't create systems where everyone has an opportunity to offer wisdom and knowledge and again have a say. There's always space for voicing, and we learn and grow from that collectively. But I think that respect for the wisdom of the elder class is something that's really foundational to our cultural cooperative in particular. We have our elders that we see as the guiding light, and so it's so important that the elders, just like the griot, are always connected to the youth. They're always in story, they're always in narrative, holding the history, communicating with the next generation, and hearing what the next generation thinks, and giving them opportunities to share that in real time. And but I think in practice, one of our values is just respecting the role of the elder class, giving them the ability to make the final decision. And I think that that's sometimes difficult in a world where we're saying that everybody gets a chance to decide. I know that one of the values of cooperatives in general is that it's democratic to the core. And so I don't know if that breaks the rules, but for us, we respect the hierarchical societies on the continent that we glean wisdom from, some of the original cooperatives. And again, it means that everybody has a space to say. That means that we consider the wisdom of everybody in the circle. But we all respect the divine alignment and what that means for our ancestors to be connected to the elder class. And as a result, we're willing to, after having our say, leave the final decision with the elder class. Sometimes to a fault. I'm not going to say it's always worked out for us, but we value that within our cooperative, and we have elders as well. I would say alongside that, interestingly enough, one of our values is always great imagination. This ability to imagine a world outside the one we're in, this great balancing act between tradition and imagination is, I think, where we're unique, because alongside some of those traditional values from traditional African cooperatives or societies, so to speak, we're also very much in celebration of what it means to imagine beyond our wildest imagination. For lack of better words.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you for that lens on democratic member control as different than communalism from Indigenous African context. Since you mentioned ancestors already, and I'm going to get you caught up because we talked about this a little bit, Tama. I know. We coming. But since you mentioned that, it begs a question. This next question is about ancestral inspiration. And I want everyone to think about this as well. Since we are people that really like to promote the Sankofic work that we do, what ancestors in the arts, in culture, in cooperative decision-making, cooperative movements, Kim, does TIA, do you pronounce it Thai? Or just TAI, let us know.
Yeah, like
Tours.
it's Thai, like ta-ta,
Okay,
ti-ti,
Thai.
like the rhythm of a drum.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right now. Thai tours, yeah. What ancestors do you guys take inspiration from? You mentioned the Gada system from Ethiopia, so it might be a little broader than just one singular individual.
Yeah, so I wanted to be clear. So our organization is a triad, and in some ways we're a cooperative of cooperatives. Because we're working in 9 countries, each one of our regions functions as a cooperative with those 3 at the base. So they're all a worker cooperative because we're sharing our skills. We have a skills bank. We're all a purchasing cooperative because we're collectively buying what we need for the community. And the aspiration is that each region, even if they don't yet have a property built on the land that we've secured, is also a housing cooperative. And so for us, all 3 of those together that's the closest to what you would call a cultural cooperative in this lens. The triad, the mother is Teaching Artists Institute, the father is Thai Tours, which is how we pull in most of our large contracts and then share that money amongst our various skills. And then the youngest child is the International Thai Studies and Cultural Exchange, where we provide study abroad and cultural immersion, etc., to many of the local universities that send their students to study in the regions where we work. So I hear you going back between Thai and Thai Tours, and I realized that I didn't properly explain that. So Teaching Artists Institute is the mother, Thai Tours is the father, and the baby is the International Thai Studies and Cultural Exchange. And so that triad, in one way or another, funnels resources into all of our cooperatives, which in each region has its own circle for purchasing or housing or the Skillshare worker owned and led. And so I'm just trying to make sure I'm speaking bilingual, because I know that in Thai we have our own Thai talk. So you mentioned Um, you said, what is it that we
And
use within our
ancestors,
structure to acknowledge ancestors?
or what ancestors inspire your structure, inspire your work, um, in any way, shape, or form. Do you mean? Oh no, we were on a roll. We may have gotten a little disconnected from Kim, but
She had an entrepreneurial spirit. Um, and it was so cool. Like, she, in my opinion, epitome of what it meant to be a cooperative, as a group of collective.
Kim, you are breaking up a lot.
Yeah, I think yeah, I was wondering.
She'll come out and come back in. So we'll let's continue, and also room for pause.
Esther, did it cut me off again?
You're back. You sound
Okay, sorry about that, Polly. So I was talking about my grandmother, and you were talking about ancestors, and I said that there's a book, Collective Courage, and she basically talks about how African Americans embodied, what it means to be cooperative here on this soil in Turtle Island. And I just feel like, my grandmother, if you've not read the book, then I'll say that my grandmother was a cooperative before they had a term for it, or before it was a class, before you could get a degree in it, because we had no choice but to pull our resources together. Um, Even though my grandmother, Mary McClary, is not yet an ancestor and she is just an elder, she's 93, she tells me stories about how she, came on, I guess, what Isabella Wilkerson would say was the largest migration. They say migration, but really, I think the girl that um, has that farm up in New York, she said it was a forced migration, that we were economic refugees. But the largest migration of Black people globally was when those of us living in the south eastern regions of the United States migrated to the north and to the west of this country, looking for opportunities, or sometimes just trying to get out of the South with our lives, only to close on our backs. And both of my grandmothers were a part of that migration. And they talk about how they canned their peaches, and how they, had fatback and strychnine, and how they would share with sometimes 10 and 12 people in one house, and how they would take turns using the bed to sleep, just so that they could work and use the same house. And how I see just how close together as a community they were. They understood that it was the relationship. Sometimes we're trying to build cooperatives or collectives, mix, but really we need to turn that model on its head. It's the relationship. We have forgotten how to communicate as a people effectively. We don't trust each other, and we're so accustomed to all this space that they give us in the United States, this illusion of space, that we don't come close enough together to build anything cooperatively. And it's no paperwork, there's no shared agreements or shared value statement, contract that's going to teach us how to do that. We're going to have to learn how to step on each other's toes. And so when I think about my grandmothers, on both sides of the family, they just knew how to instinctively do that. Inherently, they knew how to do that. Her and her sister friends that came up from the South and moved to Baltimore from South Carolina and North Carolina with nothing but each other, they made it work. And I feel like, just simple things. I watch all the kids this week, and everybody take their turn, and in exchange for that, you get your time back, which is one of our most valuable resources.
In 2 miles,
When we
keep right
go
onto I-81
when we
south.
go to other countries with our cultural cooperative around the world, they stand a lot closer together. When I first started working on the continent of Africa, I used to be like, man, can you just give me 50 feet? You're so close. You talk to me. I need space. And I realized that
Guidance
that
is at
is
this
not,
volume.
that's something that we've learned over time, because historically our grandmothers weren't that way. They were a lot closer together. And so they've certainly been my greatest ancestral influence.
Oh, that's wonderful. Feel free to throw in the chat the same, ask a question for you. What ancestral inspirations are you taking right now for your cooperative work? So Kim, when you when you're talking about your portfolio, should we say that you are the founder of the Thai Triad that includes the Teaching Artists Institute and the Teaching Artists Institute tours? Is that
Yeah, so
part of your?
Thai Tours, Teaching Artists Institute, and International Thai Studies. But, the reason that I'll say, we've been a cooperative since the beginning, even though I'm the founder, vision is just an idea, unless you have people that are willing to help you,
Keep
pick up a
right onto
shovel
I-81
and
south.
help you, build it. And so, yes, and, I guess if on paper we have to say who gave birth to the idea, it was me. But we've had so many,
Continue on current road for more than 50 miles.
we have so many midwives and doulas for our vision around the world that I could never take credit by myself. I don't know who we'd be without all those people along our journey that said even things as small as like, keep going, you're not crazy. Like, it matters who you show up with, the people that are your reflection in your community. Yeah, it makes a difference. So yes, I gave birth to the baby, but I'm not the only mother.
Wonderful. Since you've already talked so much about midwifery, um, the work of the doula, the work of so many other hands. There's a Haitian proverb that I feel like is coming about many hands makes the work light. Put in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna give Miss Kim, sorry, Kim, a little rest, and we're gonna hit you with this next question, Tama, and then please, Kim, come in. Very simple. What makes your model of art and cultural cooperation successful?
Hmm. I think for us is really about centering community, and really centering community in the design of our space, to how we curate content, to the foods that we serve in the whole mix of it, and really making sure that that voice is heard, because it's when we're creating music, we're creating whatever expression that we're creating, we can't do that, and we can do that just for ourselves, but it'll just be for ourselves. But when we're talking about creating outputs so that folks can be engaged, we really want to learn from and really continue to lift up the cultural expressions of our history in that, and also the ways the community actually wants to be seen and heard. So our space is very much a collaborative space. We have not cultivated a space where it's just about what we want to do. We've always cultivated space where we've had partners, co-organizers come in and offer programs. So those other organizations are very much in the same neighborhoods. Their children and our children are playing together, but also that part of it helps us to really center like what is important for this particular area. And I think that's one of the meaningful things, is like making sure that what our community wants is centered. I think for me personally, what drives me in doing this is that this work is sacred work, is spiritual work, and preserving the essence of the ancestry that we've created, that we've gained from our ancestors, the music, the arts, our physical expressions, and the way we do our hair. Those elements are all sacred. And so I think really honoring that energy, and also being able to like showcase that but also showcase the future because our children are just as important. So I think the bridging between our history and our future is a spiritual work. And so how we continue to do that is making sure that we are not just by ourselves. Is all about like the young people being present. It's about our elders being present. I really like what Kim said about the griot. That energy of storytelling in the arts is so important. That's what the arts are. It's about really sharing a narrative, being able to share in an expression so that we all can actually relate to each other. And music is one of those many things that makes what a person is doing relatable to the next. And I think from the last piece is just like, when we have rehearsals, and I'll just say this one thing. There's a local organizer by the name of Wendy Moore O'Neill, who is the offspring of John O'Neill, who was one of the organizers for Flick. Um, and some of the work that they did was really embody cultural organize, right? Embody cultural organizing by making sure that when we are organizing, there's food, there's song, there's dance. All of these things are the things that bring us together in community. So honoring that work, and also with like creating space for people's voices to be heard. I've mentioned Wendy Moore O'Neill because she hosts this community sing, and it's really beautiful that people from various backgrounds, no matter who you are, coming together in one space, lifting up in one voice. And so those things are the ways that people are coming together and having these conversations to really plan out our future, understand what it means that for us to meet our needs. And so just being able to keep the work spiritual, bring in our past, also lift out our future, but also honor the people who are around us today, all in one space.
Thank you for that really complete over look, Tama. We've heard so much about from you about autonomy, independence. You've lifted up your ancestral connections and the value and what drives you, the sacred and spiritual mission. Kim, what continues to drive you to do this work? Why do you do it?
Honestly, when I look around at crumbling institutions, I mean, do we have a choice at this point in our history? I mean, I don't think that we really have a choice if we don't realize that I'm in the same position as my grandmother's grandmother was. We're at a point in our journey where it's like be cooperative or cease to exist. Because we need community like never before. And so when you say what drives me to do this work, it's like really I feel like I have to create a liberated zone where people can thrive and do that without having to wonder where their next meal is coming from. Being able to do this work and us have a place where they can stay if they come into our neighborhood because we have a property where we have the infrastructure to take care of our people in a world that's crumbling around us. I just feel an overwhelming sense of responsibility to do that because it was done for me, because I am my grandmother's daughter, and I don't feel like, I don't know, like there's much of a choice. So when you say what is driving me to do it, I guess the need to survive and thrive and see that really in this time of history, there's no alternative.
And Kim just triggered a thought for me, if I may. There's so much juiciness here. I can't
Right
wait to
ahead.
meet you offline. But one of the things that Kim said is like, we don't have a choice. And when I look at like what's happening in the music industry, let's talk about the industry. It is a literal machine that has been eating up our people for years. And let's go back to when I talked about like the first pop star. Today, what what you would call a pop star is completely different from the way that music and arts were organized back then, right? So the machine is literally kicking out and pushing out these things for us to enjoy, or things to kind of shape our minds, shape our thought process. And when I see the type of content that's being produced by the machine, it is diabolically against us being in control of ourselves. And so, Kim, you raise a really, really important point that we there's no other choice, because if we don't, we're going to be totally consumed or even lost in the sauce. And I can't go without saying that now that AI is on the scene, producing arts and things, if we want to call it that, it is a really, really interesting landscape. And how do we, as people that are like the spirit of culture, like we're the ones that create this culture, how do we sustain ourselves? How do we like continue to like compete? And the reality is, we don't need to compete with that. We just need to create our own. And cooperative economics gives us an opportunity to create our own. And those who think like us, those who feel like us, let's gather. Like, this is the beauty of being in collaboration with each other, is that we don't have to accept what's being pushed out by the machine. We can create our own and make it be the way that we want it to be. And that's what our ancestors did. You know, they had no choice, and we don't have that choice today. We have to.
Thank you, both, you guys, so much. You've spoken to so much, especially when it comes to local and grassroots community impact. So I'm going to dive right to the maybe the harder things, because sometimes we need to unpack the harder things. And just as a reminder, there will be a Q&A. We're going to stop in, I think, 15 minutes. So challenges and opportunities. We'll just keep going with you, Tama, and then Kim, have you weigh in. What are your business's current challenges? And sometimes people like to frame challenges as opportunities, so you can frame it that way too. What are your business's current opportunities as well?
Thank you for that. And I like that framing. I think a an opportunity that we have is to continue to build capacity organizational wide. It doesn't mean that I personally have to be the one that does everything. Like, there's a lot of things that we create ideas for, but sometimes we, as people who are the creators of that idea, we're very connected to seeing it through, when others are able to actually come in and help us see it through collectively. So I think there's this idea around, when you generate an idea, that you are the only one that can hold that idea. And I think there's a beauty in being cooperative and collaborative. And music and the art space, as space, gives us a beautiful opportunity to find more ways to be in collaboration and conversation with each other, in concert with each other, if you will, to preserve those traditions. And I can't go without saying capital. There's an opportunity to generate more capital, so that arts and our programs can be sustained. So there's really one of the largest barriers. And when we talk about funders, we talk about banks, we talk about lenders, they don't, is really amazing how everything that we see in society, like on television, and if people watch TV anymore, there's so many other mechanisms. But even in those mechanisms, and they're rooted in, there's always some music, right? There's always some song, there's always something there, there's visual artistry, but yet people don't see the need to invest in the arts. And it's really amazing that there's so few lenders, so few investors, so few philanthropic people that see that arts are everywhere. It's the nature of our entire society, but yet the value of being invested in it, it's just really amazing that people aren't really connected to investing in this. People who create should just be free to create. Like, I want to wake up without having to go, like, go flip a burger so I can actually create the things that I know that I'm able to create. But because we're so bogged down with bills and meeting our needs and eating, we have to find those other ways to survive. So having money is really a challenge. And then policy that supports us and protects us. I don't really depend on the government to do these things for us. I just never have, and I never will. But we cannot like turn the other cheek to the attacks. And I think that there is an ongoing attack on arts and black arts in particular, the black identity in particular. And so what does it look like for us to have either policy or other infrastructure for us that builds in those safety measures? So those are the opportunities that I want to lift out in this moment.
I'll go straight to you, Kim, because I don't want to use up all the time. But challenges and or opportunities facing your business.
Yeah, so I think I like your framing too. The latter part, how our challenges are also opportunities. Um, so I don't know if you've ever seen uh, one where
You're breaking up, Kim.
it's there. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
You were breaking up just now, but yeah, we can hear you now.
Hear me now. Okay. So I was saying I don't know if you've ever seen the McDonald's movie. I, and the movie it's not a documentary, but it's like an actual biopic. Like it's the history of McDonald's, how it came into being. Um, and there's a part in the movie where the owner of McDonald's realizes that he's not in the burger making business. Like even though he makes burgers, like he realizes that he's actually in the real estate business. I think for us as an organization, as a cultural cooperative, at some point in our journey, we realized we weren't in the art business, even though we were all artists and we were sharing our skills and we were being called to provide the entertainment or the artistic pieces of everybody else's vision and sometimes curating our own. We realized that as a cooperative, we had this great opportunity to be sustainable. If we could get all of our basic needs out of the way, then we could really get to doing the art that we wanted to do. So the question we had to ask ourselves is, what if we owned our own infrastructure? What if we didn't have to rely on somebody else for housing and food and energy or transportation? What would we do with our time? And most of us said, like, if I didn't have to deal with all those things, you're right, I would just simply be doing the art part. And so the opportunity was, wow, look at this great opportunity we have to do a purchasing cooperative and a housing cooperative and whatever kind that's going to sustain our cultural cooperative. But then the problem on the other side of that great opportunity in our realization of this, new profound understanding that we needed to be sustainable as human beings, not just the artists, not just commodifying our craft like the rest of the world did, but how do we see ourselves as human beings that need these things first, address those needs, and then have all the freedom of time that we want to create our art. What we realized is that now we're knee deep in building our infrastructure and we don't get a chance to create as much as we used to. And so it's like, yeah, now we're experts on this, but do we want to be sustainable and spend the next 5 years working on our infrastructure so that we have the next 10 to 15 to only focus on the art if we so choose? Or do we want to take 10 years to get to that place or 15 years to get to that place and be able to create more art along the way? And so I would say that's like you did in your body language, that great balancing act that is both opportunity and I don't know, a challenge or something that we're growing through, trying to see what is going to work for us. I would say the other thing is that because we're working internationally, we're creating what doesn't exist. Most cooperatives are hyper local and they're only focused on what's in front of them. But our local, like I mentioned from the beginning, is local. So we're just as much interested in what's happening in Uganda and that's political climate as we are, in Grenada, in the Caribbean. And so for us, trying to figure out what doesn't yet exist is an opportunity because it means you get to create it as you go along. But then it's like, man, I really wish there was a model for this that could help us out because sometimes you just, want the answers to the test. And so, yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna have to talk to you offline since you mentioned Grenada, because I want to know, are y'all working in Grenada? Because I'm half Grenadian. But I know
Really? Okay, I knew
yes,
you were a
ma'am.
little spicy. Yes,
Oh,
that
473, anybody
is
in the
very
audience? Um, before I know we got a few more minutes before we open it up to questions. So many. I'm trying to pick which is the ones that will really ground us before the Q&A. Since you mentioned other types of um, support, maybe we'll go to partnerships and maybe we'll flip it back to Tama and let this be our last question, Aimal. So, what types of partnerships, either with other cooperatives, be it different community organizations or funders, since we talked about access to capital being a challenge, have been beneficial to your cooperative, and then how do you foster those relationships?
Thank you. Yeah, I want to just name that I don't feel like I am just doing individual co-op building, like it's not just my co-op. I feel like the work that we're doing is really about movement building. So partners and co-collaborators and co-disruptors, if you will, are really, really, really important to what we do and actually have been vital to like our survival and success. And so like working with other co-ops, like we do have Cooperation New Orleans, which is an organization that's building a movement for cooperative economic practice here in New Orleans. Um, we've been inspired by other movements in other places. And so building out a network of individuals who are cooperative centered has been critical. And I also want to name that we're building out based off of the solidarity economy. So we have a fiscal agent partner that's really key to our success. That's providing a lot of backbone support for the organizations that are in our network. So providing fiscal agency support, administrative support. Builders of the Highway Foundation is that backbone organization. And our space, we have what used to be a corner grocery store in New Orleans that we've converted it to a cultural center. And so part of our approach is taking these properties off of the speculative market that was once could be potentially gentrified and put something else in it that the community doesn't want. So having space partners that are willing to offer up that space for their work has been really, really for our collective work has been really critical to the movement.
Thank you. Man, I had a question about gentrification. We don't have enough time. Kim, same thing to you. What types of partnerships have really supported the triad? The triad?
Um, so partnerships that have supported the triad, um, yeah, I would say some of our best partners are governmental bodies, ironically. But on the continent of Africa, I would have to say it's still very much a relationship economy. You still have to know somebody that knows somebody, and you still have to be adopted into a family to even be heard. And so when people that are outside of that family or relationship economy, come to the table, it's nice when you have government support. And in some of the regions where we're working, the government is some of our best partners, and they do things like give us access to space, like the mama said. Um, they do things like allow us to bring our goods into the country, without like paying a lot to clear it. And so for us, as we're in a space where we're trying to, in real time, figure out how to do this art tribe trade internationally, having the government as a partner in the regions where we work, yeah, it's been one of our best allies. I'll also say, ironically, some of our best clients are nonprofits as a cooperative. Like, I'm not going to say everybody's going to be able to plug out of the matrix. I mean, maybe there's a space. Maybe we don't want the nonprofit industrial complex, but maybe there on our symbolic landscape is a place for nonprofits because they are some of our best partners and some of our best clients. And so if that's you, then listen, we want to partner with you. Maybe. Let's talk about it. Yes.
No promises. um, well, I want to keep to the time. Amal, how do you feel about me thanking our panelists and opening up for questions from our those who are gathered?
Yeah, sure. We can go ahead and open up Q&A. Thank you everyone, Tama, Kim, Alana. Thank you for moderating. It's been great. So I would love to hear if the audience has any thoughts, any questions. Feel free to add them in the chat and also the Q&A. I think there was, I saw one question right now that came in, which was, what questions did you ask your team to decipher what types of cooperatives your organization should operate or focus on? If anyone wants to answer that.
Yeah, I'll hop right in. Being that cooperatives are organized to meet the needs of its members, the very first question for me was, what can this cooperative do? What do you need this cooperative to do for you, right? What needs do you want met? And I think for us to be aligned on a shared need is the first point of entry when it comes to like understanding that a cooperative model is meaningful. But then also, it also can help us understand like the type of co-op that would be meaningful for the group. So how do you, what are the needs that you have in this space, and how can a co-op actually help you meet those needs? And then the other piece I wanted to name about like questions is, do you think a co-op is the answer, right? Just being very candid, because sometimes, and being straightforward, that co-ops do take time, as Kim named, that they are relational entities. And we don't stress that enough in the cooperative movement, that they are very relational. Having people to really connect to the fact that if you're not prepared to be in relation with others that are trying to meet their needs, then a co-op model may not be the best thing. But I always encourage us to try to figure out ways for us to co-create and meet our needs together. So like, what needs do you need met here to start out?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm trying to see if there's any other questions in the
I
chat.
didn't know if Kim wanted to respond to that
That's
about
fine.
questions.
If you want to go ahead and add something.
Yeah, I mean, I basically agree. It wasn't that we just woke up one day and said, oh, we're going to start a cooperative. It was really an epiphany that we arrived to collectively. Like, oh, we hear all these people all of a sudden. I mean, well, maybe not all of a sudden, right? But all of a sudden, cooperatives were really popular, and everybody was a cooperative, and they were everywhere. And then we thought about our best practices as an entity, and we say, oh well, that's a no-brainer. We're a cooperative too. Call it what you want to call it. We would call ourselves more of a collective, but when we think about the fact that we work together, in these ways to secure our basic needs, we realized that, yeah, we're a cooperative, but it wasn't that we set out to be a cooperative. We didn't sit down one day and say, hey, let's start a cooperative. It was that we had this vision and mission that we collectively wanted to work towards. We had the shared value system, like the mama mentioned. And because those boxes were checked, we realized that what we were doing was cooperative work, and that we could include that language with intention into our definition so that we could, be able to communicate in ways that were, I don't know, more cooperative. Let us connect with the cooperative community, because there's this entire community that are intentional about sharing, building, with shared value.
Kim, you were breaking up just now. Just let you know.
Yeah, I think she's having some network issues.
Wow, sorry. I'm still in the mountains. I hope you caught some of that. Basically, I
Yes,
agree with the mama. We had shared needs, and
we did. And I'm gonna this question is directed towards you, Kim. So let us know if you can answer. Participant is asking about what the definition of grass tops is. And if not, I think I have a good idea of it too, and I can take a stab because I feel clear. But
yeah, and I think you definitely should. Grass tops are all of the broad stroke entities that are of a certain class, of a certain position that is, macro. Grass tops, governmental bodies, international organizations, a certain class, a certain managerial role in our society's weaving, I guess. But yeah, Alana, you should also answer, because I think you also know the answer.
yeah, no, I just ditto what she said. Little wider widening the aperture than the individual focus or at the local level, more of maybe the municipal or government structures or broader organizations that give you access to the local economic stream is what what I would say. Um, do we have any additional questions? If not, I've got some more from those who are on Zoom or even those who are on the I Am Arts live stream. We've heard from Kim Poole from the TAI Triad, the Institute, the Tours, and the International Studies Program. They're spread across nine countries, did you say? 9 countries in the
Yes, we're in countries, 7 of which are on the continent of Africa.
Okay, yeah, and 7 which are on the continent, which is um, incredible. And we've heard from Tama Israel, who has a portfolio that spans the banking, lending, food cooperatives, music, and arts production.
I don't
Okay,
see any
let's
questions in
see
the
if
chat,
any.
so Alana, if you want
Okay,
to
great.
go ahead.
Yeah. Hmm. I wonder if I should go into the gentry or if I should go into long terming. Hmm. I think I'm gonna go into long term vision. Maybe we can come back to. Um, would love to know what is your long-term vision for your cooperative structure? What steps are you taking to scale up your impact while you're maintaining your values? And would Tama or either Kim, you can talk about where you guys are heading.
If Kim has a good signal, you go right ahead.
Okay. My signal is good. So some of the steps we're taking to scale up are actually some of the things that I guess traditional cooperatives do from the very beginning. Whereas we began really fluidly and organically out of need and shared values, we, as African centered people, didn't feel the need to learn or even connect with the traditional cooperative community. And after 10 years, we finally figured out how to have some level of stability and collective ownership. And but I think one of the ways that we're going to scale up is just again, like I said previously, starting to with intention connect to some of the traditional cooperative leaders and communities that are doing this, and they started out by saying, hey guys, want to start a cooperative? And I think that we have something to benefit from those communities. That's a part of the reason we're here tonight, because we want to know who the people are that say, hey, I'm a cooperative. My name is co-op.art, or, we've ran into a lot of folks that are doing that, whereas we started again organically and looking first for sustainability to say, yes, we exist and we can do that autonomously now. But just because we're communal, we want to be more communal in the cooperative space, and I think that's going to help to scale our work, and especially because as we grow in our various regions, we're realizing that there aren't really many laws that govern cooperatives growth or support it, and the laws that do exist are really limiting. And so I feel that in the next phase of our work, we're also going to have to work in coalition with other organizations that traditionally identify as cooperatives, so that we can begin to advocate and lobby to legitimize the space and to make more space for it legally in the various regions where we work. And doing that internationally, from what our research has told us, has really been a lily white space. The International Organization for Cooperatives, they don't really embody African or, indigenous. I mean, we're indigenous to Africa, so we're indigenous too, but it doesn't incorporate the global South in ways that it should. And so just it's time for us now to be a part of coalition and advocacy and policy development. And I think we will also benefit from some of the traditional structures around cooperatives that have been developed, that have started with that goal in mind. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and Tama, before we get to you, can I circle back and do a little nitty-gritty that really I'm trying to ask the questions that really get us stumped when we think about putting the values into action. And because, Kim, you are working internationally, I think this might be interesting to know. So my question to you is, how do you navigate the legal and regulatory landscape for cooperatives, especially as a Black-owned business, but most importantly, because you're transcontinental? And what resources do you wish were more readily available or that are really working in your favor? So it could be either or. Let me know if that question is clear.
So I'll say this, only because they are the exception to the rule. The traditional cooperative, as I guess NDCC would know it, is really only seen in Kenya, out of the regions where we work. Um, Even the Office for International Cooperatives, the Africa liaison is based in Kenya. Kenya is co-op town. Like they love cooperatives in the traditional sense. And when I say traditional, I'm not talking about the original traditional, like the African or indigenous origins of cooperatives. I'm talking about legally, as you mentioned. Though we don't work as an organization, like meaning we don't have 365 boots on the ground, even though we have affiliates in Ethiopia, they have a lot of banking cooperatives or I guess credit unions. You can't walk two steps without finding a banking cooperative or a credit union of some type in Ethiopia. How we navigate, the truth is that we've never had to because we've always worked independent of the system. And in many of the regions where we work on the continent outside of Kenya, there aren't many, there aren't any laws around, what governance for cooperatives are. We've just come together, been sustainable, found ways to trade our goods, services, and skills, and figured out how to collectively buy things. And now we've moved into housing spaces and land where we're now pooling our money to buy houses and lands. And I think in some ways it's benefited us because, like I said earlier, the opportunities and also the drawbacks is that, yes, we're doing something that doesn't yet exist. The most you have is that you have purchasing cooperatives where people are buying produce between countries, a lot in South America, and then they're now selling them internationally as a cooperative. But you don't find local cooperatives that are functioning in real time outside of that space. And even when you do find organizations like, the international cooperatives that are at least thinking internationally about how all the cooperatives are working, they aren't functioning like it's like a membership base, like they're using the fees from members to pay for technical support. And really, I don't see how it benefits the members. I mean, it's nice to have somebody to talk to about, but I don't see how the people that are working in those positions, how they're actually benefiting the cooperatives themselves. But yeah, to answer your question more clearly and directly, we've not had to acquiesce to any legal structure because in many of the countries where we work, they don't have one. And I don't know if that's benefited us or not, but there should be because when it comes to registration and there are benefits to, I guess, being legally recognized when it comes to certain low-hanging fruit things like opening bank accounts and things like that.
Thank you for that. Sometimes there's benefits and, like you said, pros and cons for systems and how they give you access and being able to move around them works in your favor. We're gonna close in a second, so I just Tama, maybe if you would like to respond to the vision question in terms of the Israel records, what is your long-term vision for your cooperative, and what steps are you taking to scale up while still maintaining your values?
Yeah, I love this question because when we embarked upon owning a space, I think about the future of arts and cultural of cooperatives. I see the Neo Jazz Cultural Center as a living prototype. It's a space built for artists, by artists, where we're owning our creativity and our hand, and works hand in hand with ownership. We're more than just a venue. We're more than just a cultural center. We're a home place for creative and cultural imagination, a space for community, for artists, for organizers to collaborate on a collective vision for our communities. So I think about our space being somewhat of a prototype And also to name that there are other collectives. I want to lift up a collective here locally, Studio La La La, which is a production collective here that's doing a similar base organizing. So I see that being the future for artists, owning their means of production and really cultivating those spaces where their arts and culture are raised and elevated.
Thank you so much. So if we were in person, I would obviously allow us to stand up and everyone to give a round of applause. But since we're here virtually, maybe say any comments you have in the chat. Thanks those who were on the I Am Arts Live. That was wonderful. And I just want to say thank you to Kim of the TAI Triad, the TAI Institute, Studies and Tours Program, Culture, Heritage, Transnational, Transcontinental Travel. Thank you for so many words of wisdom about skills banking, about navigating systems from outside, about relational culture, that and about global. Thank you for the question from whoever that was about grass tops and trees and giving us some language and to build on. And I also want to thank Tama Israel, whom I have had the wonderful opportunity to meet in St. Paul in about a year or two ago, for your offerings, so wise, talking about our autonomy, talking about our independence, talking about co-partners, co-disruptors, um, doing work with a food co-op, doing work with loan funds, doing work with her own, well, a shared independent record label, and being able to manage all of that in a way where keeping this sacredness of the mission. I just so appreciate you guys. And I don't have any closing remarks. I just want to say thank you. I'm Alana from I Am Arts, and we are based in St. Paul. And if you have any more questions, direct them to Aimal, who's from the Network of Developing Conscious Communities, who can answer and get everybody plugged in to the right sources. Kim, why are you raising your hand? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm raising my hand because I didn't promote. I just want anybody that's on the call, if you're old, then please like us on Facebook, facebook.com/teaching artists, one word. Again, that's facebook.com/teaching artists, one word, no S. And if you're a little younger and you don't have Facebook, Tide Tours is also on Instagram, and it would be TAI.tours, TOURS, on Instagram. So yeah, they would kill me if they knew I was here and I didn't promote our social media at all. I'm not good with social media. So please like us, all 30 of y'all or however many people are here. Please like us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then I want to go ahead and thank Alana. Thank you so much for doing such a wonderful job facilitating this conversation and leading the conversation. It's a really important one. Thank you to Ma and Kim for your really insightful conversation, your comments. I think everyone here took a lot from this conversation. And then I want to give everyone an opportunity. Also, we have our upcoming webinar, the second part to this webinar series, which will be on youth entrepreneurship, and that's on November 20th. And it'll be a great conversation like today was as well. I'll include the pre-registration. I just added it to the chat. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you, NDCC. Thank you, Tama. Thank you, Kim. Thanks, everyone.